Welcome to Take Charge, where it is our goal to empower people to take charge of their now, to thus take charge of their future. My name is Jeff Shepard. I'll be your host tonight, and this radio show is brought to you by PowerOfPurpose.com. I'm here with my guest speaker here, Mr. Reginald Gant, and he's a longtime friend. We actually met over a year ago in a joint business venture, and from that time we met, when you just know something about somebody, you just know they just have it. He just had this aura about him being a man on a mission, and in that time he's created a book. He's the owner of an HR company, and he's actually the founder of a mission called Serve. And I love the title, Seeking Excellence, Respect, Value Every Day. And Mr. Gann, I just want to, if you want to elaborate on any of those things that I just mentioned.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity. Thank you to Power
Absolutely,
of
man.
Purpose Radio for having me. Thank you to you, Mr. Shepard. It's an honor to be here. So just to talk about serve quickly, seek excellence, respect, and value was something that God shared with me in a dream a few years ago, about 2009. At the time, I didn't know what it was, but I woke up from my dream and I wrote it down. And over the years, God has whispered in my ear here and there, and He basically told me that everyone we're all called to serve. Bottom line, you know, the true ultimate servant obviously was our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. He paved the way for service. So the acronym came to me in a dream: seek excellence, respect, value every day. So now I'm making my life's purpose to teach that to other people, especially men, especially males. And I have an organization. I truly believe that my wife and I, we serve in many different capacities, and we just want to teach other people to do the same.
And you know what? One, I appreciate you even coming on the show. A man of integrity, already doing big things, and this is exactly why I even asked you to be on this show tonight, because the topic is giving yourself permission. And there's so many alarming statistics, and I'll just share a few. I mean, 89% of women are unhappy with their body, right? 20 million Americans are currently unemployed right now. Almost 70% of the population are just complete like unhappy with their lives, their jobs, their circumstances. And those are some alarming numbers. But I think what's even more alarming is the fact of why there is so many. Why is that? And as I'm, it's my calling to serve as well. And I want to empower people to take charge. And the one thing that I can really focus on in that trend of data is really giving yourself permission, because I truly believe that either you're consciously giving yourself permission to succeed or you're unconsciously giving yourself permission to fail. So, I mean, those alarming numbers. What is your take on that? Why do you think so many people just don't even set out to achieve their dream or their goals?
That's a great question, actually. I think the number one reason is fear,
Mm.
and I probably would back up fear with just maybe a lack of clearly defined vision. If you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you're going. If you don't know what you want to do with your future, then it's kind of hard for you to operate in the present. So, because most people don't challenge themselves to think beyond the normal everyday hustle and bustle of getting up, going to work, coming home, taking care of the wife, taking care of the husband, because they don't think beyond those dimensions, a lot of people end up stuck there,
Mm.
and it's an unfortunate place to be. But giving yourself permission is something huge. And if you ask anybody who's ever been successful with anything, the very first thing that they did was believe that they could, and they gave themselves permission to move forward.
Absolutely. And belief is such a powerful tool, especially when you're trying to achieve a goal. Let me give you one more statistic, that 92% of Americans never fulfill their New Year's resolution.
Wow.
About only 8% of the population only, they actually fulfill their New Year's resolution.
Wow.
And I think that speaks volumes to our topic, because sometimes we start out doing things, right? We get that idea, and we never act on it, right? We get that idea, and instead of thinking about how we can make it happen, we start thinking about all the things that can't. Actually, I was talking to a young lady a while ago, and she's a teacher, and she told me or expressed to me that it was inside of her to write a book. Now, this had been inside of her for years, and we actually got to talking. And one of the reasons she felt that she couldn't do it, she's got kids, and I understand that I'm a family man as well, and she felt like she never really had the time. So we just had a quick conversation, and we just talked about what is time. Time is, we all have the same 24 hours in a day, right? So why is it that some people maximize those 24 hours, where as though some other people underutilize those 24 hours? And we were actually able to break down her entire schedule: family, events, class, because she goes to school, work. And even in that time frame, we were able to find about 6 hours a week that she could actually spend on her book. Now, just that was an eye opener. And a lot of times, and I think you even said this earlier, that we kind of get stuck in that rigmarole, that same old, the everyday, and we don't feel like there's more, or that we have the ability to do more. So that's actually a good point. Do you think it's that they don't give themselves permission, or are they, you know, putting an invisible cap up beyond, on their abilities? Because the one thing that I really hold true, and I really believe, is that you're only limited to your beliefs. And going back to what you said, you're only limited to what you believe you can do. If you believe you can get things done in this time frame, you're going to do it. If you don't, you don't. And the sad thing is, whether you think you're right or wrong, you're right.
You're right. Absolutely. That's three powerful words that I live my life by: ask, believe, receive. And I've read the Bible. I've listened to The Secret, the audio, as well as watched the DVDs, and it's everywhere. Ask, believe, receive. You have not because you ask not. The Bible says it clearly. If any of you lacks wisdom, ask God. He gives you graciously. So if you don't ask for the things that you want, if you don't ask life for everything that you want life to give you, why would life give it to you? And if you think in your mind, doubt, oh, I'm always going to be in debt, oh, I'm always going to be poverty stricken, oh, I'm never going to be successful, oh, I'm never going to get that promotion. Just like you said, you're right. Because that's what you want. You're telling yourself in your mind that's what you want. So you'll get exactly what you want.
And I want to just highlight on that, because that's exactly what I mean by unconsciously giving yourself permission to fail.
Absolutely.
Because if you're already worried about the negatives, if you're only focused on what you can't do, you're unconsciously bringing that towards you. Absolutely. And I totally believe in that. And not only that, going back to what you said earlier about, asking and believing. So many people ask, but they don't believe.
Absolutely. That's being double-minded.
Right? So, I take it back to my son. He asked for this little hoverboard, right? And he believes he's going to get it. I mean, it's on his mind every day. I'm going to wind up having to get it for him, because, he's at it he's so adamant,
Okay.
But how many times do we say we're going to do something, but in the back of our minds, we really don't even believe it?
Absolutely.
I remember going to church and praying, because, the sermon moved me, and hey, you're going to get abundance, and, something great's going to happen to you this week. And I'm praying something happens, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't really believe. So I'm not giving myself permission to receive the blessings that are out there for everyone. And that's so huge. What do you think about that?
Well, the Bible says it best. A double-minded person is unstable in all their ways. So the very second that you ask for something and you doubt, you just eliminated whatever it was that you just asked for. So you have to. And Napoleon Hill is crazy. Outwitting the Devil, one of my favorite books.
Yes.
Have you read it?
I've read that a couple of times. Yes.
You have to have a clearly defined vision, clearly defined purpose, and you have to act like nothing else is more important than what you're working on. And when you do that, you will truly be successful in it. And I totally believe that's what separates a Bill Gates from a regular person, or a Mark Zuckerberg from a regular person. They have a clearly defined vision, and there is no hesitation. There is no questioning. There is no doubts. They move, and they move with urgency, and that's why they have the fruits of their labor.
And I like that, what you just said, moving with urgency, right? Not taking the time, or taking more time than necessary. Right. Getting that idea, because an idea is really a blessing. That is a gift from our Savior, from the universe, whatever you want to call it. And it's almost like a test. Here's an idea. What are you going to do with it? Now, if you take the time and see it through, then other opportunities will come. But if you're always putting it on the shelf, then you're going to be right where you were, or even a little bit behind. And you talk about outwitting the devil, and if you have not read that book by Napoleon Hill,
Please.
please do. It is a very very deep book, and in fact,
That
it
changes
really
your life.
helped. Oh my goodness, it helped really shape my focus and
Mm.
my destiny really, because when he started talking about the natural rhythmic attraction, and we actually
Yes.
spoke on this last week. So if you hadn't had a chance to watch that episode, I suggest you go back to powerofpurpose.com and look at our last episode about finding your inner strength,
Mm-hmm.
because it's it's certain things that are put in our place to distract us.
Absolutely.
And when we go from a place of vision, and then we get distracted, or we look at Facebook, or we watch that extra hour of TV, and then next thing you know, our project's not fulfilled. So now we're stressed, and now we yell at someone.
That's right.
It just starts to attract all of the negativity. When if we just kept focused on our sight, everything else will work out.
That's right.
It even said the worst thing that you can, or the worst, what did it say in the book? The devil's worst enemy is someone who has the power of thought,
That's
right?
right.
Someone who
A made
truly
up mind.
believes in himself. Because if you do, there's no way that he can touch you. He can try.
That's
He
right.
can put obstacles in
And
your
he
way,
will.
but you can't stop a man that'll never quit.
That's right.
Just it's impossible.
Impossible.
So, moving on now. Again, I say that you're the perfect person for this show, because I know you're a man of integrity, and I know that you had to walk your own battles. You had to give yourself permission
Absolutely.
in order to do some of the marvelous things that you're doing. And what I want to give my viewers is not just a hypothetical sense of learning. I want to give some real life examples, some things that they can take away and utilize in their own lives. So would you just mind sharing some of your story? What were some of the things you had to go through to give
Yeah.
yourself permission?
So my story is I say it's kind of like a story like everybody else's. It started for me at the age of 19. I became a father. Nobody saw that one coming. I tell you that. Nobody, not my mom, my dad, or myself. So being
So
a
young
parent,
father.
yeah, young father. And I grew up in one of the most dangerous zip codes in Baltimore City. So statistically, I wasn't supposed to make it anyway. Single parent household, mom raising me. Father at age 19. I went to Morgan State. That's where I started. I ended up transferring over to the University of Baltimore, which is where I finished my graduate degree. So a lot of people wrote me off early in life. Then I was fortunate enough to land a government job at the age of 22. Actually, still there. Still work for the federal government. Still in human resources. Make amazing money. But then that's not enough.
Right.
Because God told me at an early age that you are called to serve and do greater. And in 2009, he started whispering in my ear. 2010, 2011 is when I finally stepped out on faith and I started my resume writing business. That's how I actually started entrepreneurship. I worked in human resources for the federal government. I noticed that I had a gift to write. I had a gift to help people obtain employment, obtain interviews, and things of that nature. So I turned that into a business opportunity, and it's been very successful. My wife and I, when we met, that's actually the premise under which we met, to discuss business, to discuss partnership. But lo and behold, God knew that He was bringing together two people.
Wow.
In marriage.
Wow.
So now we what the world calls as a power couple, because my wife, she's an entrepreneur. She's just amazing at everything that she does, and together, collectively, now that we are ordained by God, uh, we serve in so many different levels. We're mentors, we're authors, we're entrepreneurs. I mean, my wife preaches. I speak. People have told me that I've been called to be a preacher. I don't know. God has not told me that part just yet, but service to many leads to greatness. I forgot if Zig Ziglar said it or Jim Rohn, one of the two. But I truly believe that if you help solve enough problems of other people, in return, your problems will be solved as well.
Absolutely, and I believe it was Jim Rohn that said that. And I just hope our viewers caught that, because he turned adversity into triumph, and you can't really get to that succession in life without some adversity.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of people have, they want to get the muscles without lifting the weights. They want to have the success
Yep.
without really putting in the work.
That's right.
This young brother was written out for the most part,
Yeah.
right?
Early.
19,
Early.
in a dangerous environment,
Early.
but you use that as a catapult to success, not as an excuse
Not as
or
an
a reason to
excuse.
fail.
Absolutely.
And it's so easy. And you know what? When I was younger, I had a T-shirt. It said, "It's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission." I had to throw that away once I really started to really understand the power of
Mm.
self development, because so many times it's easier to go the way of the easy. It's
Absolutely.
easier to not do those things. It's easier to put something on the shelf. Oh, I'll get to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But giving yourself permission,
Yes.
actually taking that accountability, that's very really difficult.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of people either are unaware of that importance, or just unwilling to do so. And I think that goes right to the statistic about how only 8% of the people follow through with their New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
And my story is a little different than you. I mean, I grew up uh, a regular person. I didn't really want for much. I had a single mother, loving mother, tried to do everything that she could for me. I had some opportunities, and I was one of those people who kind of just took things for granted, right?
Oh,
I
wow.
just,
Okay.
hey, I know I'm going to be okay. I went to college. My mom was an educator. Hey, that it felt natural. So without really putting any thought into my future, I just kind of went what felt natural, what was easy at the time. So I wound up getting my degree at Bethune-Cookman College, and um, after a while, got into the teaching, and I mean, it spent 12 years of my life, you know, for me to figure out that that's not what I really wanted to do. And the sad thing is, I know there were some colleagues that thought the same thing, and they're still there. But what I had to realize, and I had to take a look in the mirror. I'm 32 at the time, struggling. House is about to be foreclosed on. Uh, Cars getting repossessed.
Wow.
A family of four with my wife, and I had to look in the mirror and I had to say, is this what I really want? Because for me to think, that if I continue to do the same things for another 20 years, that I'm going to get different results would be crazy. But alarmingly, so many people feel like, hey, well, if I just keep doing the same things, if I work harder doing the same things, I'll get different results. And look, if I lift weights with my arms, I don't care how many times I try to pump it up, it's not going to affect my legs. It's just not. I've got to change up the exercise if I want to work that muscle. You've got to change up your actions if you want to achieve a certain purpose, right? So the thing about it though is I had to really hit rock bottom. I mean, rock bottom.
Yeah.
And I'll be totally honest. Some of those things are still even affecting me today. So it's not easy to give yourself permission. It's not. And I want to. I mean, I want to even say that at every facet of life, the more successful you get, the more permission you have to give yourself. You never get to a comfort zone.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think we have to really start. And viewers, I'm challenging you. Start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. I'm going to say that again. Start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Get out of your comfort zone. The comfort zone is a trap.
Yes, it is.
Now, again, you can live in your comfort zone for the rest of your life, and that's fine, but you can only get but so far. And if you really want more, you have to become more. You have to become more. And I mean, would you want to elaborate on that?
Absolutely. It sounds like one of my affirmations. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it's something along the lines of do more, learn more, become more. But we get so comfortable, we get so complacent because it's so easy. And when you start to disrupt the status quo, it's something in the brain that tells most people, hey, this is not right. I don't deserve this. My family doesn't deserve this. So let me just stop. Let me just fold. And that's where a lot of people live their lives. But when you give yourself permission and you actually start to rise above those things, yes, it's very uncomfortable. It's very nerve wracking. Yes, there will be nights that you don't sleep. There will be nights that you cry, but it's worth it in the end.
Yeah. And I think one reason, and please share your insight on this, that is so difficult for most people to understand is because this is not something that's really taught.
No.
It's not something that's really shared. I went through my entire school and college career
Yes.
and never really learned the power of myself and how connected we are with certain natural laws and the way that we can really dictate our destinies if we only choose to do so, give ourselves permission and see that through. And I was a victim of this as well. So I'm going to own this. And if you shared this, please just understand that we're still living, or a lot of us are living on the advice and the values of our parents and our grandparents and our grandparents' grandparents. And because we have that value, and let's think about this: depression years, civil rights. It was a fight. You had to just hold on. Look, if you had a little bit, you were happy.
Wow.
Right? If you were able to just retire and be alive, that was an accomplishment. But we're living in a different world, and I'm not shaming anyone. In fact, I'm so thankful for our forefathers. We couldn't have been there without that. But we're still under that same mentality,
Yes.
and then we're wondering why we're struggling. We're wondering why so many people. It's over 50% of working class Americans still work after they're retired.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
what do you think
Yeah.
about that?
I think you're right. I think it's definitely a trap we've been set up. And when you step back and look at it, you work 40 years, then you retire, and you have to live off 40% of your income when 100% of your income wasn't enough. So how are you ever supposed to get ahead when if you were making 100,000, 100,000 wasn't enough, and now that you're retired, you're making 40,000. And let's be realistic. If we're making 100,000, our lifestyle is probably at about 150,000 because we're living above our means nowadays. Because everybody wants to be a Jones and keep up. So we have been set up, and it's really professional development, personal development, where my life changed when I started to surround myself with people who were actually in the network marketing industry. At first, I was the typical person. I had my nose turned up to these pyramid schemes, because of ignorance, because of lack of education. But then when you step back and you actually see that these people are actually entrepreneurs and they're go-getters, and when you start to read some of the material that they read, do some of the training and development and things that they take part of, your life starts to change. And I remember sitting in my cubicle as a government worker, and my mentors make millions of dollars. And I'm sitting here like, I'll never be able to make millions of dollars here at work. But I know that my family is worth it.
Right.
I know that my children and their children and their children behind them are worth it. What are you going to do? Yeah. Are you going to sit in this cubicle forever? Or are you going to do something different? And that's when I decided to do something different years ago. And I thank God that we're still in business. We're still moving forward. And I'm still focused on making my first million and beyond.
And with that kind of attitude, I know you're going to get it. And I just want to go back to something you said a little earlier in your conversation where we retire off of 40%.
40%.
And that's one of the conversations or the revelations I had with myself when I was, in my early 30s, looking in the mirror, saying, look, I'm making, $55,000 a year right now. And I was broke.
Yeah, broke.
Okay, broke.
Yes.
So when you say most people live above their means,
yes,
it's true, right? And I was making 55,000, and for me, okay, and let's just say I put it in 30 years, and I retire at 70,000. 40% of that, and I'm already. I mean, I'm underwater at 50,000. So that's when I knew that I had to do something, and that's where we met at a network marketing event, and again. The choice about network marketing is your own. But the one thing that I cannot deny was the path that it led to self-development.
Absolutely.
In fact, if I hadn't made that decision, I wouldn't even be in front of you right now. And I'll be totally honest. And it's allowed me to embrace my gifts. It's allowed me to really focus on what my calling is. And so many people go through life without even realizing their calling. So you got to realize your calling. You got to cultivate your calling, and then you have to reap the benefits of your calling.
Absolutely.
And you know, I just wanted to elaborate on that point because I think that goes over a lot of people's heads. You know, we're sitting here wondering why we have to take on another job, why we're taking on 3 jobs just to make ends meet.
Yeah.
When if we just really focus on developing our gifts,
Yeah. Absolutely.
giving ourselves permission, I'll go right back
Yes.
to that title,
Yes.
giving ourselves permission to get closer with ourselves and face those demons, face those adversities, face those fears. Because when you face those fears, you'll get into the grace. But you'll never get into the grace if you're staying and hiding in
Absolutely.
fear.
Absolutely. So let me just give a nugget because it's going to be a daily journey. It's a daily fight.
Yeah.
Every day that you wake up, the devil was coming after you. So, what was the premise beyond the premise for my book? Right. So I'll just do a plug on my book. So I wrote a book. It's called "Serve Yourself to Greatness." It's a 30-day book of affirmations because I'm a true advocate in speaking life over everything. I speak life over my job, over my marriage, over my children, over any situation or circumstance. I speak life over it. So if you have an affirmation a day that you tell yourself, that's 30 days in a row. It takes what, 21 days to break a bad habit?
Yeah.
So if you do something consistently for 30 days, if you speak positive affirmations and life into your marriage, into your children, to yourself, imagine where you could be at the end of 30 days. And that's why I wrote the book. And it's amazing. I challenge people every day. Affirm yourself. If you haven't told your wife lately, I love you, tell her, I love you. Tell her 30 days in a row, I love you, and mean it. Tell your children, hey, you know what? I've been watching you. I'm so proud of you. You know, tell your coworkers, you know, even though it's a hustle and bustle every day, I appreciate your help and your support. And at the end of 30 days, if nothing else, you feel better. You have elevated yourself, and God has now sees that you take yourself serious, and He's gonna send some blessings your way.
And you know that is just so true because again, I'm going back to the show that we talked about earlier. It's so funny that you're saying this. The episode before this, talking about your inner power and talking about your ability to create your destiny, to become the person that you want to become. And the affirmations is just another way to really speak the positivity in your life.
Right.
So, you know, things don't just happen by chance. Sometimes we got to take the reins and really you know, seek what we want.
Yes.
If we want a good marriage, we've got to do the things willing that necessary to have a good marriage. If we want to get a better paying job, are you looking for other options? Are you seeking or creating more value for yourself? Are you willing to stay those extra hours?
That's right. Are you doing everything
Are
that
you
it
doing
takes?
everything that it takes?
You'd be surprised. So in my profession as an HR professional, so many people want a job. They want their next promotion. They want to get ahead. The resume is not even in order. The interviewing skills are subpar. The writing is subpar. But you want to make that 6-figure income, right? But you have a 3-figure income education level and experience. How can you barely have graduated from high school, but you want to be the CEO of the company with no training in between? And I see so many people, they just reach and reach and reach, but they never develop themselves in the meantime.
And you know, again, I think that goes back to my example. We want the muscles without lifting the weight because we and again, if you're down here, if you're at a 3-figure income mentality, there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing.
Okay, so I don't want you to feel ashamed. But if you're trying to go from here to here without becoming this, without becoming here, you're not going to get it. You have to become what you want.
That's right.
Period. And, you know, if you want to be a CEO, you must become a CEO before you become a CEO. You have to become a CEO inside, you know, mentally and in your integrity before it manifests physically, right? You have to become what you want. Absolutely. And it's just so true what you say. And that's why I'm just so grateful that you're on the show because you're really speaking positive towards that. And just to let you know, I caught a glimpse of a young lady by the name of Lisa Nichols.
Yes,
And
Lisa
she's an
Nichols.
amazing coach. She's an amazing motivational speaker. And the reason why I bring her up is because she came from being on government assistance to
Yes,
being a multi-millionaire. Not because she followed someone else's dream or someone else's path. She developed herself.
absolutely.
There's so many other people that have this ability or that have done this, and it's right in front of our eyes. So I don't know if you know of any examples, but I want to give our viewers some hope that if she can do it, if we can do it,
Absolutely.
you can do it too.
Absolutely.
I mean, do you know of anyone else that? Because
Absolutely.
I'm having a lapse right now, but
Sure. Michael Jordan.
uh,
One of my most favorite quotes. Michael Jordan says, "I failed over and over and over
mm,
again, and that is why I succeed." Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team and
absolutely.
turned out to be the greatest basketball player of all time. 6 rings. Jim Carrey. I saw an interview with Jim Carrey on Oprah one day. Jim Carrey was so ambitious that he wrote himself a $10 million check
Mm,
while he was poor, broke, busted, and disgusted, struggling before In Living Color even came out on TV.
mm.
Jim Carrey wrote himself a $10 million check and put a date on it. And what happened? He was able to land his first movie deal. How much did they pay him for his first movie?
10
$10
million.
million.
I mean, the power of belief is so powerful, and we're going to wrap up here, and I hope that you've got some valuable information here. And I just want to, first of all, before we wrap up, one more question, Mr. Gant. What are some things that we can do if someone's looking here and they say, you know what, this makes sense, and I'm tired of not giving myself permission. I realize this. I want more. What are some certain steps that they could take to really start to allow to give themselves permission and to really bring towards them what they really desire instead of what they don't?
Absolutely. First of all, write the vision. Make it plain.
Like Jim Carrey, he
Like
wrote a
Jim
check,
Carrey.
right?
Jim Carrey wrote a check. He put the check into the atmosphere and he attracted that. Write it down on paper. Secondly, what I would say is develop yourself. If you have problems or if you don't know where to start where it comes to developing yourself, seek a consultant. My buddy, we've had many conversations. You have no idea how deep you've taken me and how thought provoking the questions were that you asked me to drive me further. So
Wow.
seek professional assistance. Obtain a mentor. Develop yourself. Read. Read. I
Mm.
can't stress read enough. Read. In our industry, they're always encouraging 10 pages a day. If you can read 10 pages a day, that's 300 pages in 1 month.
Yeah.
You can read at
5 books a
least
year.
2 or 3 books, at least. But read. Turn the TV off. Put the cell phone down. Open up a book. Develop yourself.
So giving yourself that time to develop. And
Absolutely.
you made a great point. You don't have to do it by yourself.
No.
But don't fool yourself in thinking that you can do it by yourself if you already know in the back of your head
Yeah.
that you can't. Seek the help.
Teamwork makes the dream
There
work.
are people here, me, Mr. Gant himself included, that are here to help. And it's not just us, but if you know that you need help, seek it. Give yourself permission.
Absolutely.
And as we tape off here, I just want Mr. Gant, if you can give our viewers a way to be able to communicate with you, because again, he says I challenged him. He has really challenged me, and he's a very modest man. And some people may want to even help you with your mission on serve, or maybe even want that resume. Hey, if you need the resume, this is the resume guy. So how can our viewers contact you?
Absolutely. So again, SERVE is an acronym. It stands for Seek Excellence, Respect, Value Every Day. The website is www.serve-llc.com. Call me. My telephone number is 443-845-1766. And just ask me of the many ways that my wife and I serve. We serve in so many different capacities, and we can plug you in anywhere where you need to be plugged in. So it's serve-llc.com. The telephone number is 443-845-1766. Email address info@serve-llc.com.
And everyone, you know where you can find me. TakeChargeConsulting@gmail.com. Again, that's TakeChargeConsulting@gmail.com. Look, it's been a plum pleasing pleasure to have you in attendance tonight. I hope you found some valuable information. And the last thing I want to say is that I want to reiterate this point. If you are not consciously giving yourself permission to succeed, you are unconsciously giving yourself permission to fail. This is Jeff Shepard with my guest host, Reginald Gant. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you for
Look,
having
take charge of your now, take charge of your future, take charge of your destiny. Take care, and I'll see you next week.